Hey everybody, this is DM Mike, and this is the last and final map for Hoard of the Dragon Queen in Chapter 8. I've just called this Raths Chambers. I'm really good at naming naming naps. I can name a nap all day. Naming maps. Raths Chambers. Now, Rath Modar is just a hero, not a hero, he's actually a villain in Hoard of the Dragon Queen. This is just his room inside this flying castle that all these encounters towards the end took place in. And you can see this because I've kept the aesthetics of the prior maps, the Wyvern Assault and the Hallway Assault. You see the snow, we got ice, we have, if you look at the table floor there, or the top of the table, the texture I used was another just quick Google search. I Googled like high definition HD ice texture, and that's one of the ones I came up with. I think I found 3 that were acceptable, and this one looks really, really good. I don't know how well it looks back here, but on the table itself, when people were playing, it really looked like the characters were kind of just walking around on ice. Really, really effective. But anyway, I'm keeping the ideas, that look and design of those previous maps, so there's consistency. So I'm using the glaciers from Heroescape. I'm using the ice spires again, squishing them really, really thin to make those backdrops. And just kind of, spreading it around the map. I forgot about this. Let's put the sketch up real quick, right? So these sketches don't really reflect too much of how this room turned out. These were just like beginning stuff. I knew kind of what I wanted, but the end result is very, very different. Like for instance, I had ramps on left and right side that were symmetrical, but ramps for like any ranged characters and whatnot. For whatever the reason, I just didn't feel like doing that. I feel like sometimes when you're making these maps and you're under the gun for time, yes, I could have made that. But I realized I didn't have the time to make that, to try to make all those different levels and stretch out all these models, which I could have. That's a easy way of doing things, but make it look neat and just kind of make sure the ramp worked and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's just, I would love to do that, but I'm always working, as most DMs are, under time pressure. I had this, at this point, this is the 3rd map I had made for a final encounter, including, I think I made like 3 radio dramas for this last bit, and of course, writing the adventures and blah, blah, blah. So, out of time. But, the sketches gave me a rough idea. So they don't really, this map doesn't end up looking exactly like those. Anyway, back to this. As you can see too, typically I'm building my maps portrait, like they kind of start on this end and go to this end. This is landscape. So I wanted here a wider room for combat to take place in, because I knew I had a mix of, for the enemies, long range characters, so archers and whatnot, using javelins mostly. And of course my tanks that were running around, they were Thayan warriors actually, that I got an idea from another campaign book. But they were running around. I want to make sure there was space for people to move left and right and go forward for both enemies and heroes. And as you can see here, there's a lot of cover, like all those spires that are out there for either side to use to their advantage, again, because of, in my estimation, I have a lot of, there's 2 heroes that are ranged, and they're always using range. And so I really wanted to, slow that down a little bit and make it a little more complicated. But right here, moving stuff around, I took the grid off here, I think. Because again, I had a rough idea. Sometimes it's good to put your grid down and you can kind of count the squares and see what it takes to get past a certain obstacle or whatnot. It just helps, if you're playing a D&D campaign or running a D&D table. Now here I've taken the Heroescape model, all the same, right? I think I used 2 or 3 variants this time, but what I would do is, obviously make them really thick on one side and then shrink them down to paper thin and kind of layer them in there to make it look like just some of the snow was kind of jutting out on the sides. It was really more for visual effect. I thought, yeah, maybe the players, if they wanted to, they could get up there. I didn't think it was going to happen, and matter of fact, it almost did. One of the players actually tried to leap from one of the hexes, these snow hexes, which will come up here in just a bit, to one of those, and we did a very simple athletics check, and he failed it miserably and fell in between. And when he fell, 2 more enemies came up above him and threw javelins down on him and dropped him to 0 hit points, and he almost died right there. It was a little ridiculous. Matter of fact, here come the hexes right now. All right, so I'm starting to pull out. Those, again, are Heroescape models, and this is actually, that place right there where I'm building is where he fell. He tried to leap from those hexes over and fell almost right where that token is, just a couple squares up. It was valiant. I mean, it was a good effort because he was getting overwhelmed pretty quickly. But I put these hexes in for height variance, right? So characters, whether enemy or heroes, could take advantage of it, and several did. My enemies took advantage of that, and in this case, Mortimer, the ranger who died, also took advantage of it. Again, it was just options. No one had to, but it was there, and I wanted to make sure it was there for them. Now you can see I've taken the hexes again, and I've blown them out, and I'm using them as background at this point. Again, this is inspired by the hexagon, the stone hexes in Iceland, but more really, every time I do this, I'm thinking of the Solus Project, which I know I've mentioned many times here. It's a VR game. It's just very striking, and I loved it. And I guess I'm kept this in the stream. I'm listening to Alien soundtrack, Alien Isolation. Awesome game, by the way. Listening to the soundtrack. But I put those around the edges because I just wanted that look, a different look, not just all iced wall all over the place. Again, to change it up a little bit. And you can see in the back there, this is a good shot here, that little iced wall with almost looks like veins or something are built in. That was another just ice spire. It's just another texture. In the book talks about how the characters, enemies, can touch a wall and the wall will disappear, almost like a hologram almost. And I decided just to put that into this room. That's a different ice texture compared to the others. So it kind of resembles like this little door. Now the heroes don't know about this, but the enemy did. So we are just dropping more snow back there. Looks like I'm using the same models. Now, here I am, modding all these or moving around all these hexes. I actually did a second version. This is, I've talked about this before, if you want to change things up, make a second file and just, take away, edit, blah, 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 whatever you want to do. And I did that. I actually made a second version of this, and I actually put castle walls around, like temple walls. They were like dark blue. And at first I thought maybe that made a little more sense. Rath had come in and maybe melted a lot of the snow and the ice in there so he could work and not be freezing cold. And in doing so, he exposed the kind of stonework of the castle. But this castle actually is just made of ice and snow. And after a while, after I built out all these walls, I thought, you know what, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't think I'm going to do that. So I went back to the hex, and here I am doing the strobe light effect, going through probably like 30 different light schemes. All right, again, here I am moving, adding mist and fog, hiding it in the snow, hiding it at the bottom of the map, and being very careful with these spires. The spires have caused trouble for me in a couple maps. And here I'm putting flames. You can see here I'm just lighting the area. Some of those flames are not really flames. They're just there to kind of give this area just a unique look. Like that hot orange and blue actually looks pretty good, I think. So it's just kind of a lighting idea. Even though I do put some fire around and like these little fire pits because Rath is, doesn't want to freeze his butt off while he's working. Here I am testing the tokens. I actually put some hexes up there, up in the ceiling to make it look like there was a ceiling. But later I take those out. I just put like these ice spires, prongs facing downward to make it look like ice glaciers or stalactites, I believe, are frozen, are kind of forming above them. There I am raising the back because I don't want, when I'm down low with the camera, I want to make sure you don't see behind it and all this kind of stuff. It's just staging, really. So we're nearing the end here of this time lapse. I'm going to show you the final result because there were quite a few changes and things I added, which I didn't record because they were just minor things. But there was pretty significant changes. Here we go. Lighting, moving things around, testing things. Looks like I'm moving those torches around a little bit more into the sides. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I like the orange and blue. I got lucky with that. I didn't know what I was doing. It just looked good. All right, now here I'm closing off the side, so it looks like a doorway they're going to go through when they first enter the room. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and we'll go back to a real-time view of the final outcome of Rath's chambers. All right, let's go ahead and do this. All right, guys, here we are. This is the final look at Rath's chambers. Now, I saved this file right where we left off, so the tokens are going to be everywhere. Let's kind of get a high-rise view here. This is where one of the characters had fallen back here. There he is. When he tried to make the leap, they came back and stabilized him. But you can see here, there is quite a few changes. Put in a huge hex over here. Here are the stalactites I was talking about that are kind of all up in the ceiling. So when you're looking kind of head on, it looks like, these things are hanging on up there. Matter of fact, this one did come down. Matter of fact, no, actually there was one over here that ended up falling right here where everybody was kind of gathered. And you can see I've pulled everything out here to make like an entryway where the characters would have come in from the castle. And little snowbanks, added some more hexes in here for people to use. Hexes back here. Matter of fact, when we started it, I'm on the first person camera, so it's a little wonky. I had my enemies kind of over here, a couple hiding back here, another one hiding back there, and some pretty big brutes, some tanks over here ready for them. Now, of course, I added in this kind of altar area for Rath where he would work, and he brought in 2 large statue relics that came from the portal. That the more relics they uncovered while they were doing archaeological digs, trying to find dragon artifacts or dragon cultist artifacts. So this is where he would work and brew his potions and plot evil things. Here are more props, like just bookshelves and scrolls and things. Here's his cauldron and an altar. This is something all you can find on the workshop. This is where he died too, because here's where the wolf and one of my heroes was. I think he was like right here. This is, this was his viewpoint on the battlefield when everybody kind of came in through here. And of course I shot off fireball all of there, and he could tell his troops exactly where the heroes were. So he was actually in a pretty far away spot on purpose, because they came in right there. So they had to do almost 3 or 4 moves just to get up here. And then some of them tried to climb up here to get to him. But of course we had a bunch of enemies out here slowing them down. Everything else just about the same. I think I've added a little more lighting and closed it off around here. Added a few more spires, but I think the biggest addition was this altar area, and added a little more snow back here where this fake wall was. And of course the statues and whatnot. But this was a fun map. I actually liked how wide it was compared to trying to run from this end to this. I don't know, this kind of worked a little bit better. A lot of people had more room to breathe and fly or change shape or run or hide, anything they needed to do on this map. But if I must say, it's a pretty good looking map, I think. It's not perfect, but for the time constraints and having to change it last minute, it worked out really, really well, and I had a good time on it. All right, guys, that's it. That's it for this map here. This is Rath's Chambers for Hoard the Dragon Queen in Chapter 8. At this point, the next maps to come will be probably single-player maps for D&D and also Rise of Tiamat. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for keeping up with me. And, of course, more maps to come. I'll see you in the next one.